Hello everyone, welcome back to another video. Today I'm going to be going over some really cool piano processing techniques to take your piano from sounding like this to this. Now really a lot of this is just in some very simple post-processing, and this gets you a really nice big tone, especially for things like dance floor, house tracks, things like that. And we're going to get right into how I'd go about processing a sound like this. So right now I do have a piano with pretty much nothing on it. The only thing I have on is a gain plugin, because it is really quiet by default and I didn't want it to sound weaker than what we do with the processing. So that way you get a more kind of truthful reference to A and B and decide which you prefer. So with that in mind, first thing we're going to do is take a look at the piano itself. Now I am using a good one that I have for contact. You might not have this, you might. But the important takeaway from this, the very first thing we're going to do is take a look at the settings to your piano and see if you have something to control tone. I know you could even do this in FL keys, so a lot of free things will offer you this. But right now we could choose between a soft piano tone, like this, which is really nice for other kind of uses, not what we're going for in this video. There's the default middle, which sounds like this. Or you could set it all the way up to hard. This is what I think we want to go for. That's sort of what we want. However, there's another control that I think is really useful for what we're going to end up doing in our effects chain later. If you go into here under Anatomy, you could turn down or off the release samples. If I hover over it, you could read it. It's very tiny. I don't know if that's going to be visible on the screen, but it basically explains what that does. And this is going to kind of get rid of the tail of like each note, so that way it sort of ends more abruptly. That's super intentional for the sound we're going for, but that's definitely something we want because we're going to end up compressing this loads. And if you have a lot of compression on something, it's going to bring up those tails. We don't necessarily want that. So ideally, we could get rid of or drastically reduce those. So now we're ready to begin some processing. Like I said, I can do a lot of compression on this type of sound. I'd recommend if you want to go like the free route, you could use OTT to sort of get you started. Or you could use Pro MB if you own it, or just another multiband compressor. I'm probably going to do a bit of both here, but first things first, we're going to load up OGT, a free plugin. If we use it on max, you could very clearly hear what this does. That's way too much though. We sort of want that in a very small amount. We do not want that at 100% because that sounds terrible. Something like 20 is probably enough. Maybe a little more. So around 40 is where I think it starts to sound gross. So we're gonna undershoot that a bit, and then on and off. So it's just gluing things together a bit. The next thing we're gonna do for this type of sound is multiband compress specific frequency ranges. So I'm gonna want to crush the mids, and then we'll see what to do about the highs. I want this to be super compressed. So we're gonna listen to that on its own, and just mess with some compression. I found very low attack and release is great for this type of sound. Softer knee, and boost that back up. That's nice and clear, but good and compressed at the same time. But our highs are very, very, very important. Want to see what to do with these? I'm not necessarily just giving you like definitive settings here, I'm just taking a feel for this as I do it. Something like that, it cuts through nicely. The lows are actually unnecessary because that's going to be occupied by like a bass sound in the actual mix. So we could EQ that out quite a bit. Another thing I'm going to add is a disperser. This should make each note, you see in the piano roll, I've actually like divided up each chord so there's a lot of gaps. This should make the beginning of those sound a lot more interesting. You could kind of get a feel for what that sounds like here. I like it there. Softens it up in a weird way, which is kind of cool. And then I'm going to follow that up with a gain reduction. This is a single band, big compressor. Not going to do too much of it, but just enough to kind of bring out the disperser a bit. Exactly. And another thing I'm going to do, just kind of feeling this as we go, I'm going to add an instance of Soothe on it. If you don't know what Soothe does, it gets rid of like harsh frequencies as the song plays out, so it's not like static all at once, it adapts with it, it's dynamic. So if we listen to this, it's gonna remove this from the sound, just like harsh, nasty resonances. I think we've done a little bit too much in the gain reduction, we'll fix that a bit. And I'm also thinking something I'm gonna add before that big compressor is a reverb with very short decay, just to give it a little more space. That's sounding pretty good now, so if we take off all of our effects and just listen to what we had before, we've beefed that up to sound like this now. So I think that's super helpful, and that's just a couple of very easy effects you could add to a piano, make it sound really cool. If you found this video helpful, don't forget to drop a like and subscribe for more like this in the future, and I'll catch you in the next one.